Hello,
Oh,
everybody.
is my stuff like? Does this look really gross?
Monday night. I am late. It's my fault.
Oh, you're fine.
Tracy, thanks for being here. Awesome. Tracy's from Colorado Springs. How are the Springs, Tracy?
Phenomenal. Absolutely great.
Awesome. Love that energy. I don't. What do you want to talk about? I'm out of breath. I'm distracted. What's going on?
Well, I mean, I looked at your notes. I could do any of the talking points that you want.
Look at you, so organized. What a super guest.
I'm very type A, but we'll call it organized.
I love that. That makes for a good showrunner. It's outstanding. How is your show going down at Looney's, big fancy comedy club in the Springs?
It's going really well.
Good. Real quick, sorry to interrupt. Thanks,
fine.
Mark, in North Carolina. We got people all over tuning in.
Awesome.
Okay, so it's going well. Looney's is going well.
It's absolutely going great. So I'm actually producing a couple different shows at the club now. So I have Habitual Offenders, which just entered its 5th year of going strong at the club, which is really, really cool. But now I'm also producing a roast show for the club called We Gather Here Today. It's going to be a quarterly roast, traditional Diaz style roast panel, but I'm very excited to bring that to the club as well. And then I'm co-producing a show with one of my other friends. It's called The Firing Squad. It's basically going to be a live podcast, but it's not going to be Kill Tony. But it's the best example to give everyone. And then, of course, I still produce the comedy festival in the fall. So
unbelievable. Well, that gives us talking points for at least 3 or 4 hours, and we'll
absolutely
only be here.
So let's whittle that down.
So, mentioning habitual offenders reminded me of something very, very cool at that show, which was the ASL interpreters. Can you talk about like how that started and what that is?
I would love to.
Yeah.
So actually, it all came about because Hayden Crystal, phenomenal comic, she lives down in Southern Colorado. She was on AGT. She is hard of hearing, and she was getting booked to the club, and she was like, if it's possible, can I get an ASL team? And it just happened to fall on the night of my show. And I was like, well, let me do some digging. And it was really cool. I reached out to one of the local colleges, and they have an ASL program. So their teachers came out, they did the first show. They thought it was phenomenal. So now they use the show for their interns, and they can use it to get credit in class, basically.
Nice. So real quick, for anybody who doesn't know, what is ASL?
Oh, it's American Sign Language.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So we have, we had the teachers kind of come and vet the show, make sure it was all on the up and up. And now their interns can use it to get a good grade in class. I think it's really, really cool. What do the interns
actually do for people who haven't seen it?
Oh, so they go on stage. We actually have 2 of them on any given show. So they go back and forth. They're not up there the whole time. They get breaks, and they get to enjoy the show as well, which is one of my favorite parts. But they go on stage with the comic, and they interpret the comic's entire set for them, completely cold, by the way. They have no idea what the comics are going to say. Some of the comics are squeaky clean. Some of the comics are the bluest you've ever heard. And they go up there and they just knock it out of the park. And it's really really cool, like real time work for them, real time practice, not just sitting in a class. So I've always thought that was super cool. And that's been going on now for 4 years of the 5.
That's incredible. And then there are people in the audience that are watching these interpreters make their hand motions.
Yes.
Because they can't hear the comedians.
Right. So we've built a little bit of a hard of hearing or deaf audience. We prioritize where they sit in the showroom. We kind of have it down to a fine science. And so, of course, now those individuals can enjoy a live comedy show. And then for the rest of the hearing folk, they get to watch these wonderful hand and arm signals for some of these outlandish jokes. It's just a win-win for everybody.
That's awesome. So you've run that show for 5 years. Has it changed at all, or is it the same concept that has been for 5 years?
So I have kind of offshoots for the show. We started literally a month before we locked down for COVID. So my show, it continued through COVID once the doors reopened, but we were like a quarter capacity. So the most we could possibly have in the showroom were 60 people, when traditionally the fewest we ever have in the showroom is like 85. So that to me was one of those things where it was like, I just kind of have to keep up. I usually have 7 comics on each show. The premise of the show is 7 hoes one night, 7 habitual offenders, my hoes, in one night. So you get 7 comics. But at a certain point, I was like, that's just not good enough. So now I also have a show that's part of it's called Deliverance. It's part of habitual offenders, where the comics, they go up and they do 10 minutes of their own time. And then they hear the banjo from the movie Deliverance. And then they have to do 2 minutes of time from the comic before them. So the audience has buy-in for that prior comic because they just saw their set. So now you're seeing this new comic pretend to be that comic, which is very funny. And then, of
Do
course,
they make up material on the fly, or is this a situation where they know the comedian's material and they just do?
I try to make sure they know each other and they have the choice. You can either do jokes of theirs that they didn't do that inside and out because we've just seen each other so many times,
Yeah.
or you can write jokes in their voice.
Yeah.
So it's usually about a 50-50 mix of you're either hearing like me doing Johnny Bratsfiend's jokes. He's a black comic from Memphis and I'm regurgitating his material. Or it's someone like Russell Keller, who is a great clean comic in the Springs, writing jokes as someone like Cam McKenzie, who is a gay icon in the Springs. So it's just so much fun. Cool. And then I also have the hoedown, which is I have all of my regulars from habitual offenders throughout the entire year. They tell me who their favorite comics are. And then those comics in December, they duke it out for a bedazzled habitual offender cowboy hat. So nice. I like the fact the audience always feels like they're involved. My regulars are involved. We have the ASL team involved. It's just a really cool family communal comedy experience every time we do that show.
That's so great. That's awesome. And so have you run shows outside of a big fancy comedy club, like indie shows, I guess you would call them, or, and how would you say that's different? And what do you prefer?
So I did take habitual offenders on the road and it was a lot of fun. We did everything from people's front rooms to a cave in Westcliff and everywhere in between.
Is Westcliff in Colorado?
It's kind of like south. It's past Salida. So it's about 2 hours from the spring. So it's a solid 4.5 or 5 from you, I'm sure.
Yeah. I live in Denver. So only 3, I guess.
So there you go. Yeah. But I just reached out to every possible venue I could find. You find some people who really love the comics that you have on the show, and those private shows are of course incredible. The Cave show was a lot of fun. I prefer the club just because of the support. I mean, we can actually sell beer and we don't have to do like BYOB or figure out, I know what the door deal is going to be and all of that. So it's easier selfishly on my end, but those smaller rooms are so much fun.
Do you bring equipment in those smaller rooms, or do they have their own?
I do. I bring lighting, speakers if necessary, the microphone. When we did the Cave, unfortunately, we had a massive thunderstorm roll through. So we had to kill everything. And we just kind of did it a cappella in the dark.
That's funny.
Which was very fun, actually, in hindsight. In the moment, I was like, this is so dumb. But in hindsight, it was kind of cool. and the audience had a great time. We had about 70 people on Westcliff on lawn chairs sitting in the dark with a thunderstorm over top of us while we were
That's amazing. How big a town is that?
What's that?
How big a town was it Westcliff?
It's small, but mighty. And, they don't have a lot of entertainment. You find these beautiful little rural spots that don't have a lot to look forward to. And unless they want to drive 45 minutes and you're like, well, I'll come to you. You just have to give us booze and some burgers.
Have you ever been to Center, Colorado? Have you ever heard of that?
No, I haven't.
I was just trying to set up a show there. It's in the San Luis, I don't know how to pronounce that, Lewis Valley.
Oh, no, but I know there's so many
near
places.
Alamosa. Which I'm sure you've heard of Alamosa.
I have, There are so many great spots that need comedy. They just need entertainment.
Yeah, I mean,
they
honestly,
just need somebody to do it for them.
I kind of prefer those small, out-of-the-way places because it's way easier to sell tickets. You put a little bit of money into paid social media, and it really works in those places. Whereas in Denver, it's like just lighting money on fire. You try and pay for ads. It doesn't translate to ticket sales at all. In my experience, I don't know how the Springs is.
So I actually have never paid for ads, not even in those small spots, just because they are so small. I'll go down on a weekend and I'll hang some flyers and I go into the coffee shop and make some friends. and just
Nice.
word of mouth in those small areas. It's
Yeah.
everyone has buy-in at that point. This really nice girl came in and she's doing the show and it's only $5 and it's BYOB. All of a sudden you have 40 people and you're like, oh, this is awesome. Okay, let's do it.
That's incredible. That's
Yeah.
great. Wow. Well, let's talk about comedy in a cave for a second. Other than
Okay.
the lightning and thunder, meaning no electricity, like how do they even have electricity there? Is there like a long extension cord, or is
Yes,
there like an
literally.
outlet in the side of the cave?
So we actually made friends with a couple that owned a feed store that had a
Okay.
bar in the bottom, basically, and they were like, "Hey, just so you know, we have
A
this really
legit bar, or like a speakeasy,
no,
like
no, like a legit
prohibition in
bar. It was just
Okay.
as part
It
of the
had a
feed
real
store.
license and everything.
Yeah,
Okay.
and they said we have this amphitheater. And I was like, oh, let's do a show at the amphitheater. So, like I put everything together and I go out to check it out. And it was literally a cave. I mean, but it was super cool. There was like a mural in the back and they had some permanent lighting that they had up that wasn't working, but there was permanent lighting. And
Yeah.
it was a little bit of a surprise, but it was so much fun. We actually went twice. That's how
That's
successful
awesome.
it was. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So I pile 6 comics in the back of my truck and we just have a blast the way down, kill them there, and then a blast all the way back. It was so cool.
That's unbelievable. That's wild. Okay, so the main differences between the big club and these indie shows, other than like walls and a ceiling,
Yeah. Other than
are
just infrastructure.
they have their own bar, so you don't have to like do anything weird with alcohol,
Right.
and a pretty easy to understand ticket split. Those are the big,
Yes.
and I guess also they have light sound stage. You don't have to haul stuff.
Well,
So it's
I did haul that, and like for the front room shows, I haul everything as well. For
okay.
like some of the other smaller bar shows, I've only done a couple of those. I do run a show at the Q here in the Springs. Of course, they have everything you could possibly need. But yeah,
Yeah.
on those smaller shows, I take everything. I let them know exactly what I'm bringing. And if I produce a show sometimes for another showrunner that's just busy and they can't get to their monthly show, I take everything and drop it off just in case they need it. And I'll go back the next day and pick it up,
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
of
great.
course.
How long you been doing comedy in the Springs?
I've been doing comedy for 6 years total.
Okay. Nice.
Yes.
Amazing. That's a good length. That's roughly where I am, 6 to 7. How do you feel, what should I ask? What would you tell yourself if you could talk to yourself on like day one? What kind of advice would you give?
I was just remember to make it just remember to have fun. Just remember to have fun. I feel like a lot of people they get caught up in like this person's been doing it for this long and comparing where everybody is. I firmly believe that there is space for everyone in comedy. There's 1,000 different roads to the same 5 destinations, and the roads they seem packed, but they really, really aren't. So I would just tell myself, remember to have fun. Some people lose sight of that. They get caught up in like the drama or the competition or the where I wanted to be at this point versus where I am. And thankfully, I started comedy when I was a little older. I was 34, 35 when I started. So a lot of that ego had already gotten broken out of my body, my psyche, just through living life. So it's just like, just have fun. The audience knows when you're having fun. And it's so much easier to have such a good show when you both are just having this collective moment together, as opposed to trying to make something work and it's just not because you selfishly want it to work. I'm over those days. If you don't like something I'm saying, I'm pivoting and I'm just going to move on to what you want to hear.
Nice. Do you have any pet peeves when you book comics? Anything people do on stage that you prefer never to see again?
I think the only thing really is if you go up first and you've cursed 17, 18 times, like on a Thursday at a club.
Yeah.
Come on. You can be funny without cursing. I think another thing is just maybe comics telling me they have more time than they have. But I think that's going to be something that, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
That's going to be the bane of every comics and producer's existence for the rest, like for all of time. No comic, except for maybe 5 of us, will ever be honest about how much real time we have.
Right. Yeah. That is tricky. And in a scene like the Springs, you probably see I mean, I guess maybe that would be a problem with out-of-towners, but most of the local
Yeah.
comics, I'm sure you're familiar with their
Oh
apps.
yeah, and I lock them down. Yeah, I'm like, you're getting 5. They're like,
Yeah.
well, I can feature you. You can have 5. You've never hosted at the club. You can have 5 minutes. I'm probably lighting you at 3.5, and don't take it personal.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure you spend some time up in Denver. How do you think Denver and Colorado Springs differ or are similar? And are you glad
Oh,
that comedy specifically that you're in the Springs? Sounds like you're the queen of Colorado Springs and really doing some big and great things there.
I don't want to put a title on it, but I'm incredibly grateful that I'm a Springs comic, just because of the people that I met and the road that I get to go on. It is different than any Denver comic. Their scene is just phenomenal. It's one of the greatest scenes in the nation. Everybody wants to be a part of it. It's great that I know a lot of people in it and to have opportunities within that scene. I am very grateful that I'm not in it though. The Springs is so much smaller. I get to know people so much better. I've bailed guys out of jail. I have a guy staying with me right now because he didn't have anywhere else to go. Like, I just feel like I'm able to build such cooler relationships that just make my life better. Selfishly, have nothing to do with comedy. I think being a bigger part or a smaller part in a bigger scene would not be for me. I like having like a pretty staunch role in a very baby scene.
I wouldn't say it's very baby. I mean, Colorado Springs, what's the population? Do you know?
Oh, El Paso County is the biggest county in Colorado. I mean, you would think that we would have the biggest scene. We just don't. I think we maybe have like 12 really solid comics.
Yeah, and
And
it's also
Denver has
pretty
hundreds.
spread out. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty spread out. But it's only, 45 minutes to an hour from Denver, and there are 300 comedians in Denver, which must help you as a show producer.
Oh,
When you
absolutely. I
need
have
to
a
book.
crazy spreadsheet of Denver comics. It's like 14 pages long, and I pull from it. I literally was booking my show while I was waiting for you to hop on. Just like, when was the last time Matt Kobos was here? What about Steve? Like, I'm going through all the names, like Miriam, is she available? So yeah, I pull from them, and thankfully they are nice and we respect each other, and I love that relationship. But yeah, I don't want to be a true part of that scene.
Right.
It's just not for me. I'd rather be a degenerate down here drinking at Looney's.
Yeah. So you kind of started comedy pre-pandemic.
Yes.
Has Looney's changed as a club since before the pandemic and now, or is it back to just normal?
So much. It's changed so much.
I guess they did the construction. Yeah.
Yeah, we've put a lot of time, money, energy, just creative thoughts into the club, into revamping the club. And Eric, who has owned the club now, I want to say for like 18 to 20 years, he started as a bartender and he's just been a phenomenal club owner. After COVID hit, he was really open to changes and he opened up his heart and his wallet. And we have done so much to the club. The stage has changed, the showroom has changed, the marketing has changed. We've tried to upgrade it a little bit. It still is very much a B club. We want it to feel like a comedy club. We never want someone to walk in and be like, oh, this is kind of hoity-toity. No, this is when you grab a beer and you can have a good time. You can bum a cigarette off one of the homeless guys in the parking lot. But they're harmless. Right. It's just like a good family club. We wanted to keep that vibe, but we just wanted to update it a little bit. So we're bringing in new comics from host through headliner. We have JC Cures just came through. He's going to be hosting New Year's Eve this year. So we're just kind of updating the lineup a little bit, the club itself, comics that were coming down from Denver pre-pandemic, and they come back in the last 6 months. They're like, this is a totally different place.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I will say that myself. When I did your show, that was the first time I'd been there since, they improved the place, and it looks gorgeous. It looks really, really nice. It looks great.
Yeah. Eric's been doing a lot. And my husband, Chris, he's one of the GMs, and the other GM, Brian Corbin, they're there right now running crowd mics. The work never ends.
Yeah.
So it's Monday through Wednesday. We're not physically there, but my husband, Eric, and Brian are there. I don't even know what they're doing, but installing new cameras and cords and whatever. It's very cool.
Yeah. How big a club is it? It's like 240?
The max is 220, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. And we have, I think, every single show this past weekend sold out except for late show Saturday because of a snowstorm.
Who was the headliner?
Steve Hurst.
Okay.
Out of Dallas. He's
Okay.
going to actually be featuring New Year's Eve with me, him. It'll be me, him, and JC. It's going to be bananas.
Awesome.
I'm going to have to get an
I just
IV
did a
the
run
next
with
day.
JC. JC's great. He's so funny. He's the
Yeah.
best. Okay, let's talk about the festival. How about that?
I would love to.
Yeah, tell me, like, how did it even start? What do you? I don't know.
I had just started. When I started doing comedy, I started with a couple comics who had already been doing it for years, and they told me just get in festivals, just apply to festivals, make sure that your funny translates. Basically, they were like, don't ever just get funny here. Be funny in Tallahassee. Be funny in Minnesota. So I started applying to festivals, and I just started making notes. I previously ran a law firm before I started writing and doing comedy. I managed a law firm for, I don't know, 12, 13 years. So I like challenges. So once I rage quit that job, when I would go to these festivals, I would just make notes of all the things that I would do differently. And it kind of kept me on my toes, and it kept me in the moment of the festival and not just getting sucked up in the comedy of it. Just kind of like keep a broader perspective and always see what's going on and try to learn everything. So I just started making notes, and I told Eric, I was like, I think I could produce a festival. And he was like, I don't think you know what goes into it. And 2 years, I was just on him once a month. Let me do this. I can do this. So I put together just this crazy outline of everything. The money aspect, the marketing aspect, how many comics, the amount of time to vet videos, exactly what we're going for, show themes, the number of shows, just everything, potential headliners. And I just presented it to him over the course of about an hour and a half. And he was like, you know what? If you do it all, cool. Why not? And the first one was an absolute success. And then the second one was even bigger. So now we're adding names. People want to be a part of it. Hannibal Buress asked if you could come out and do it. So yeah, it's kind of just gone from like nothing to everything in 2 years. I'm very proud of it.
That's wild. What time of year is it?
It's the last week of September.
Okay. And how do people track it down if they want to submit?
So, I mean, we're going to open up submissions. We usually open, it's going to be the last week of May. Last year, we took 30 comics. We had over 200 submissions. This year, we're thinking 25 to 30 again, and we're probably going to get closer to 400 submissions. So every year is just steadily doubling. It's a lot of tape, I'm not going to lie, but
yeah. How do you manage that?
I have 5 blind judges. They don't know each other. They don't know. All they know is what they're watching for, and I just give them a grading rubric. Of I have one non-comic who is a judge, and it is a club owner. It is not Eric, but it is a club owner. And then I have 4 other comics, nationally touring comics that have very to little to nothing to do with the club. They watch tape, and then they give me their grading rubric, and we just go from there.
Nice. Incredible.
Yeah.
What's something you learned that first year that you put into effect the second year that you'll
Oh gosh. Less is more. I think the first year I wanted so many shows and I wanted so many comics and I wanted it to be
all the shows at the club, or
yes. So
around? Okay.
We usually do a kickoff show at one of the clubs that runs an open mic here in the Springs, like throughout the week. So the first year was Vultures, amazing little concert hall. They had the kickoff show there. This year it was Oscar Blues. They also had a wrap-up party for us. But all the other shows are at the club because it's the only place, like we're selling out all the shows. So it's like, I can send you to another venue with 30 people, or you can have 220 people here. Which one would you prefer? I always send out like feedback surveys, and all the comics are like, just stay at the club. Please just stay at the club.
Yeah.
So the first year I wanted all the shows and all the comics. And the second year I was like, I'm whittling this down. It's going to be beefy shows. They're all going to be packed out. You're only going to have maybe 6 shows to choose from instead of 7 or 8. And it's going to be fewer comics, but those comics are going to crush and they're going to give you more time. So yeah.
So many questions. Do you sell passes, like all access passes, or do you individually ticket the shows, or is it a mixture?
We do a mixture. So the first year we did do festival passes and none sold, which I understand it's the first year. So we just purely ticketed. This past year we did not do passes, and I had probably 15 requests for passes because people were coming to every single show. Okay. So I think this year the takeaway for me is we have to do the passes, like combination of ticketing and passes, but also stick to the amount of shows that we're doing. Maybe add one more day on the end, maybe do like a clean Sunday show or something, but nothing crazy. because it was really, really cool seeing people. They would go to the early show, walk out the side door, and then walk back in and buy a ticket to the next show.
That's awesome.
It was really cool.
Yeah. There's some contest element. Has it always been a contest?
Yes, we've always had Best of Fest. So we partner with Open Bar Comedy. Ron Feingold, he's the producer of Open Bar. He does all the Open Bar shows on our Thursday Open Bar tapings. He comes out for them. Phenomenal producer. That's a great platform to get really amazing uncensored comedy at. The winner of Best of Fest gets their own comedy special produced. So the first by Open Bar. So the first year was Mike Hammock. Shocking. And this past year was Sammy Beeson, who is a newer comic, and she beat a ton of veteran comics. Yeah.
Has she done her special? I don't know if she has that much time.
No, so I think she has 20 to 25.
Okay.
I'm sure she's working on it. She's actually doing my show at the Q tomorrow. I'm going to bug her a little bit about it.
Nice.
She's so good. She hasn't shot it yet, but it'll be this year. And we're going to do the same thing this year, except we're going to call it the Al Goodwin Award, Best of Fest. And it's going to encompass all of the attributes of our good buddy Al. May he rest in peace. So I have a special trophy made that looks like a badgerine.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. Do you want to say real quick who Al is?
Al Goodwin, incredible comic here in the Springs. Unfortunately, last year passed away. He was a great mentor. He was a dad to all of us. A great friend. His wife, beautiful human, Trish. Shout out Trish. We were just writing before you hopped on. He passed away. He was a huge cornerstone at Looney's. So we're just honoring him every way we can, forever and ever.
Yeah. Unexpectedly passed away. Too soon.
Very unexpectedly, yeah.
Badgering. Okay, so what else about the festival? Anything that you it sounds like you took away some shows. Anything else that you probably wouldn't do again? Sounds like you also took away festival passes the first year, but might bring them back now that you have a little more
I think now that people really know that the festival is legit and it's really good and we're bringing out really solid names and headliners, I think the passes this year, I think the first year was a bad idea. Third year, great idea.
Who were your headliners? Were they Colorado or were they flying in this last year?
So last year so Steve Hurst actually headlined all of the festival this last year. So except for one show, we actually had Callan Reese, who is a comic here in the Springs, the real mullet kid.
Yeah.
He headlined You Look Like, which was the first show on Wednesday at the club. And then Steve headlined all the other shows.
Okay.
Just because he came in from out of town.
Different material? Like what happened when people had already seen him? How did that work?
He does a different set every time.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Neat.
So, and he is going to be back. We're not going to have him headline every show this year, but he is going to be back. He and I co-hosted a competition show. It wasn't the Best of Fest, but we did a show. It was called like the super ultra mega comedy fun time. I don't even know. It was something stupid, but it was every comic on the festival competed for like crazy prizes. So he and we co-host that every year. And that's like our guarantee to co-host with each other.
Nice.
We've had a lot of other people want to be headliners this year, but the first year we only had guys from Comedy Works. We had Elliot Woolsey and Janae Burris. I'm going to kick myself for not remembering the other comics, but other headliners. They're going to hate me. But yeah, it was such a great time. So I think this year we're going to branch out a little bit more. We've had other interests, like Chris Shaw really wanted to do it. I know I was talking to Mo Alexander. He's interested. So it's just about getting the schedules to line up.
Let's see. What do you do about the actual submission comics? Are they mostly from Colorado or are they flying in?
They're flying in.
And where do they stay?
So we have like a hotel deal with one of the hotels down here in the Springs. We give them a really great discount. Also, I let comics know if I've worked with them before. I have room in my house. I pick comics up at the airport if they don't want to pay for an Uber.
The queen and the mom of Colorado.
They call me the momic. I'm the mom comic. I'm the momic. I bring, like, if I know a guy hasn't gotten paid all week and he has no money, I bring him chili. Like, like. So so they stay in the hotel or with some of us out here. We take care of them. If they don't want to take Ubers, we'll drive them around town and make sure they're taken care of. It's really fun.
That's awesome. All right. Well, we got to land this plane. Sorry, I was late in the beginning.
Oh, you're fine.
definitely stick around after we end this. I want to try and book you on some of my stuff.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. This has been phenomenal. I never get to talk about producing, and it's my favorite part of being a comic.
I
So I
love
love this.
talking about it. Yeah, I do it every week. Keep tuning in, everybody. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we wrap this up?
I mean, if you're in the Springs, come out to either Looney's or the Q. I have habitual offenders. I'm going to be opening for Renan Hirschberg on March 12th at Looney's.
Renan rules.
Yes.
I did 5 nights with him in November, October. He's the best. He's so funny. Everybody go check him out.
I'm very excited. I worked with him at Blue Whale in Oklahoma. It was a comedy festival a couple years ago, so I'm excited to do that again. And then I'll be gathered here today. Will be March 27th at Looney's.
That's awesome. All right, and how can people follow you, track you, etc.?
So my Instagram is at Tracy Twits. It's TWACYTWITS. I also have a website. It is funny4agirl.com. That's updated with all my habitual offenders dates as well.
Unbelievable. I mean, what a whirlwind. Incredible. All right. Well, we're going to wrap this up. We'll be back next Monday, everybody. RIP Al Goodwin. Check out it's called the Colorado Springs Comedy Festival.
Yes.
Right? Okay, cool. And Looney's Comedy Club, and check out Tracy Kellett. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Thank you, guys.
We'll see you